Jesus. I just saw a clip looking over here on Twitter that Trump did the put the candy on the head of the trick-or-treater again. Do you remember that from his first term where there was that kid in like that blow-up minion costume and the kid was like holding out, like hoping for it, and he balanced the candy on top of the minion kid's head? He just did that to someone dressed like a marshmallow. He just did it again, just laid it on top of him, goes through. He and Melania having a good laugh, handing out candy to our fat children.
Was it a minion this time?
No, it was a guy in a marshmallow costume. Here, I'll link it. I don't know what the character. Maybe he just was a spicy marshmallow with a bunch of lights on it. Or no, there's a DJ that has a marshmallow head. I don't remember what his name is. Maybe just Marshmallow. But
yeah, DJ Marshmallow Head. Yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah, there you go. You get that kid dressed up, and he's just laying the candy on top.
Fresh back home from his Asian tour where he accomplished nothing. That was great. Yeah, he got China to agree to buy like the exact same amount of soybeans they bought last year, next year. But this year he has to bail the farmers out, and the farmers still have to pay all the tariffs on their farm equipment and parts.
Is that shocking to you that China buys soybeans? Like they feel like a place that makes fucking loads of soybeans. You know, like I always think of Asia with tons of soybeans.
It doesn't shock me, but I've always heard that we're really good at making a lot of soybeans per acre. I think that maybe that's an advanced technique. Like clearly it's cheaper for them to import them than it is to grow them themselves. So like maybe there's an overwhelming demand for soy in China. I don't know. They said something like 20 million tons? Something like that. It was something like that. It was some gargantuan amount that you can't even picture. Like I don't know what 20 million tons looks like. Is that one boat or is it 1,000 boats full? I have no idea.
Yeah, that's one of those numbers that's so big. It would have to be more than one boat. Maybe. I don't know though. Like maybe
I don't know. The boats are so big now.
Boat. They're huge boats.
I saw a boat full of coal the other day, and it was so much coal you can't fathom that much coal even exists. And it was just one boatload. It was so much coal.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So we owned China into buying the same amount of beans, but I mean he's having a good time with the candy kids. So.
He went to Japan. I saw him with that lady Japanese prime minister. She seemed very happy to meet Donald Trump. She was like...
She seemed nice. I don't know anything about her, but she seemed to be stoked.
Probably glad she's not getting shot by some sort of handmade electro shotgun. Look at what he's...
Ooh, I love that.
That Trump episode, I think, really pushed him over the edge. I think that 60 million people watching Trump, and then the next day, like 15 or 20 watching J.D. Vance. And then the next day, it was somebody also in the administration or somebody tangentially related. Or maybe it was, I don't remember who it was now. Oh no, it might have been the VP candidate on the other side. It was, I don't recall now. But anyway, that was crazy. That was crazy that he didn't go on Joe. I'm wrong about that.
No,
that was crazy that Trump got like 60 and then JD got like 15 or 20 or something. I think it mattered. I think people got to see like a sort of a normal, laid back, funny side of Trump that he didn't seem as mean and belligerent and cruel. He seemed relatable, and that's what he needed. I think it helped.
And if you scrubbed through that interview, as I did a couple times, like there were whole segments that had nothing at all to do with politics, which I think, to your point, Kyle, humanized Trump a lot in that way, where it would be Trump asking Joe, like, how do you even get involved in stand-up? Like, how do you even think you're funny enough for people to listen to you? Like, what happened in your life that you thought, I'm so much funnier than everyone else in my world that this is a job for me? And then it would be Rogan.
Did Trump asked that? I didn't see.
Yeah, it was something to those lines. And then it was like Rogan explaining the stand-up world to him in a way. Or like Trump being very earnest asking about UFC stuff, because Trump is clearly a UFC guy, but he doesn't have the knowledge of a Rogan.
Casual fan.
Obviously. Yeah, a casual fan. And so he would they'd spent like 20 minutes where Trump's like, I'm not sure about that. I don't think he's one of the best fighters. And then Joe's like, no, but this is what you're not seeing. He does this. He does that. These are things that if you're casual, you're not going to pick up on. And, then you hear Trump be like, that makes a lot of sense to me. Interesting. I never would have watched a fight from those angles. So it was invaluable having Trump do that shit. And the Harris campaign made such a blunder not going on, or like they tried to give Joe like some little rules where it's like, it can't go longer than this. We can't address this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, no, at this point, like the Harris campaign should have been like, we're already probably going to lose. Feed into the fire. Do it. Go. See if we can make this positive.
I wish I knew the whole story, because like I've heard different snippets here and there. Like Harris wanted Joe to come to the White House. He's like, no, I do this in my studio, or fuck off. And then Harris is like, okay, I'll come to your studio. And Joe's like, sorry, I don't have any time for the vice president. And she's like, all right, we can do this other time. And Joe's like, no, that time doesn't work for me either. And I'm like, what is happening? If you guys wanted to make this happen, you would have made it happen. But it seems like both sides are coming up with rules to stop it from happening. That's, I think, the complete picture, but who knows?
It could be. My understanding is that like both Trump and JD had to agree to like nothing is off limits, and the show will not be edited. Editing. There will be no editing of this show. And so you show up, you talk to Joe Rogan for 4 hours, and then that is the show that gets uploaded. There's no requisitioning us for editing afterward. And that was, from what I heard from the news and whatnot, is something that the Harris campaign wasn't willing to do, which again was a huge mistake. It's like, you're losing anyway right now. Like, put your feet to the fire, jump in the pit. Like, if you fuck up, then you fuck up. Like, you're already losing. Like, try.
I heard there were a bunch of people in the Harris campaign. Harris herself wasn't really hip to like pop culture, but who were like, no, you don't want to go on the Joe Rogan show. It's bad news. He's racist, white supremacist, whatever terrible thing you might miscast him as. And you gotta
fire that.
And those voices were in the campaign that made her not pursue it like she could have.
I believe that fully, that she wasn't familiar enough, and then she believed someone she thought was being wise, and they were really misleading her in a terrible way. Like, oh, he's just going to be racist, white supremacist. And it's like, really, the most popular show on earth is a racist, white supremacist? Are you sure it's not a fucking goober fighting guy? Like,
I think she's going to run again. I think she's going to get smoked again.
She won't run. No way.
Yeah, she should.
She's not. Okay, what I heard is she was almost a slam dunk if she had run for governor of California.
They say.
And she decided not to run for that. And they think that implies that she's going to run for president. Also, she doesn't say she doesn't want to be president. She's like, well, we'll see where the future takes us, which is what people who run say. So
that's a huge mistake. She is not a popular candidate. If you lose to Trump, it's proof pudding that you've got some stink on you. Like that's the only way you lose to Trump in a national election. That's why Hillary lost. Hillary had so much stink on her from the Comey stuff, from the old school stuff, from just the Clinton stink, all those people that died back in the day. And then just her establishment politics, business as usual, her fake leaning toward the black community with I got hot sauce and everything. And then she was fainting, and they were like loading her into a fucking SUV, like a bag of groceries that time. And it was just one thing after another. Kamala was never going to beat Trump. I just really don't believe she was. And the way things went down with that assassination attempt was so perfectly timed. He came out of that looking literally bulletproof. He came out of that looking like maybe God had smiled on him to a lot of his supporters. Like, that's when I think my initial reaction was Trump just won or something like that.
I do remember you saying something. Yeah, I think the assassination attempt helped him a lot. And I think Trump has had the benefit of facing 3 very weak candidates. He did lose to Biden, but he was incredibly weak himself, like after the COVID stink was on him. And he handled all his own PR in the COVID times. And he just did such a bad job, like putting witch doctors out there, literal witch doctors who said like miscarriages were caused by astral demons and stuff. And these are the people on his side. The whole inject detergent into your bloodstream or UV lights or whatever. Like, he would praise himself. Doctors say I pick up on this so quickly. Maybe I should have been a doctor. And it was like, you're not presenting yourself well. You should be putting.
He's not a smart person.
I genuinely believe that, but yeah. Anyway, so that's why he lost to Biden. Biden didn't do anything well. The line is he stayed in his basement taking Zoom calls from donors, and that's all it took to beat Trump.
Like sometimes he'll say things, and I'm like, he's the smart. He's being smart here. Like he's in on the joke here. But in that instance you're talking about, where he was talking about, it wasn't just when he was talking about putting detergent or using the UV light to like kill the COVID that was in people. Yeah. And it's like, that is such, that is the thought an 8-year-old has. Like, that's the thought that someone who has like no, like, I'm not a doctor.
He wanted to nuke a hurricane.
All right. So that one that one is interesting to me, because if they suddenly gave me a stockpile of nuclear weapons and then they said, sir, we're in big trouble. Hurricane Diane is on the way. It's going to cost $4 billion worth of damages. I'm like, man, could we nuke it? Like I might ask that too. And there's a YouTube channel where they're like, what would happen if you fired 1 trillion lions at the sun? What would win, 1 trillion lions or the sun? And they do math to figure out the mass of it and everything. It's a fun little exercise in mathematics and physics. But I could see myself having a similar thought if I were given a stockpile of nuclear weapons. So that one I didn't hate on him so much.
Well, let's do this. He keeps claiming he solved all these wars, but he doesn't know which countries he solved them with.
Yes.
Or the MS-13 tattoo on his fingers. Like, there's a couple real misses.
Yeah, and I think those are happening. Those are symptomatic of different ailments. I think that the MS-13 thing is a mixture. It is about sycophants around you telling you what you want to hear and never giving you the full picture, never giving you a full diagnosis. They almost like a doctor telling an old person, well, the tests weren't great, but they weren't bad. And what they really mean is you've got weeks and it's going to hurt, like. And you never get that.
He's bragging about his dementia test lately.
I saw that.
He made a mistake and gave away too many details, because the first time he was like in his first term when he was taking dementia tests, I didn't know what was on the test. I wasn't sure it was a dementia test or if that's just what haters were calling it. Mm-hmm. But when he said, the first questions are easy. Identify an elephant and a lion and stuff. But by the time you get to question 4 or 5, it gets really hard. It's hard. AOC, Jasmine Crockett, maybe they'd never pass a test like this. Okay. So then I've seen the dementia test now. Question 4, not too tough. We'd all do just fine on this dementia.
What is it? Identify 2 lions.
That's a mama lion.
I want to know.
You can tell.
But they're all questions that like a middle schooler would easily smoke.
Yeah, whenever you get a glimpse into like the way the gears in his head turn, like I wish I could remember the guy's name, but he's some sort of fucking UN ambassador, scholar, emeritus, genius man. But he was talking about geopolitics and like every time they'd ask him a question, he was so well versed on it. There was no thinking, there was no hemming and hawing. He was like, oh yes, the economy in Bulgaria. Well, what you've got to understand there is, and the Bolsheviks back in the day, they were the core of this whole thing. And he knew everything, and he was so well versed in it, and he knew all this minutia, and he on a broad scheme of topics. Whenever you get to,
and he was probably like 54 or something.
Exactly.
With it in the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was evaluating Trump's economy and the tariffs at the time. It was the topic of discussion. But whenever you get a glimpse into Trump's gears turning, whenever you get to see him calculating, thinking, shooting from the hip on something that's technical, not just topical, something that's technical. It's one thing to say, oh, Venezuela, they better watch out. We're the big stick. We'll kill them. They'll be like dead. Like you're like, that's what he said. That's a pretty close quote. You're like, okay, all right. He's just talking tough. That's tough talk from a president. He didn't need to break it down to any details. But when he thought that you could use some UV light to sterilize people's blood, it's like, dude, do you think you're the first? If that was you think that doctor's going to go, my God, you've got it, Mr. Trump. We've got to call the fellows at NASA.
God damn it, Don, you've done it again.
But I think his level of narcissism allows him to say, yeah, I would be the guy who came up with
it has to be coupled with vast amounts of ignorance.
Yeah.